If you could send me a link to the recording too, that would be good.
Yes, I'm just getting that going here. Yeah, the link might come from the team, but I'll make sure that to remind them.
Cool. Yeah, I can publish that on Cyber Talk TV, which is published on Roku and Amazon Fire and some other.
Got it. Okay.
And it's 45 minutes, right?
It should be, yes. So right now, we're barely on the minutes, so we'll wait to see if everybody else starts jumping in.
Okay.
As I see questions come up, do you want me to?
We'll table questions for the end. I'm going to try and
Got it.
try and save 10 minutes for questions.
Perfect. Okay. I just have a couple recommendations here from the team if you should, but you have a plan, so that's great. Okay. Just waiting for more to jump in.
Okay.
We'll give it a minute and then we'll just go ahead and get started and people could just jump in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I think we have a few here, so.
Okay.
Let me see. Just double checking with the team. Okay, Rex, we'll go ahead and get started. So, thank you everybody for joining us today. Those of you that are linked in, thank you for participating in the Cal Poly Pomona 19th Annual Cybersecurity and Awareness Fair. My name is Teresa Navarro Rodriguez, and I'll be your moderator for today. And we hope you enjoy our Watchful Eye event that we have prepared for you. We ask that you review our code of conduct policy. And in short, please follow proper etiquette and remember that fair demonstrations are designed to help protect you in cyberspace, not to be used for nefarious purposes. With that said, I'd like to introduce to you our speaker today. Mr. Lee has over 35 years of tech, telecom, and cybersecurity industry experience and is a former app and platform developer. I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce himself and share more of his background. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. I'd like to thank Cal Poly as well for having me speak today. Again, I'm a former app and platform developer from the telecommunications industry. I'm also a security advisor. I've been an advisor for the Department of Homeland Security, the National Security Agency, plus lawmakers regarding intrusive apps and platforms, as well as those that are developed in adversarial countries. So today what I want to do is I want to give you all an overview of what surveillance capitalism is and why does it mean something to you, and we'll get started here. So we're going to go over some various subject matter today. Again, I'm going to cover surveillance capitalism. I'm going to cover internet centralization, how the internet became centralized for advertising purposes, the information trafficking industry, plus intrusive AI supported by surveillance and data mining business practices. And then I'm going to get into a little bit of detail on how apps and platforms are developed and what you're agreeing to when you click on I agree to accept the terms of use that support apps, operating systems, social media platforms, and AI supported products such as ChatGPT. So a lot of people ask me, regarding surveillance capitalism, they ask me, well, what is that? What do you mean by that? Well, surveillance capitalism is a business model that's centered on a targeted advertising business model. This is the business model that supports your operating system, your apps, your social media platforms, as well as AI supported products and services that we're seeing today. And what is a targeted advertising business model? This means that for the business model to work properly, they must collect as much information on the end user as possible. And that starts with the operating system end user. So we'll get into that. So surveillance capitalism has led to internet centralization, or what I term as over-commercialization of the internet, which is based on targeted advertising. Targeted advertising simply means that once they collect your personal business information, they are then developing ads targeted based on your personal preferences. And this is what's driving trillions of dollars for the tech companies, Google, Apple, and Microsoft. This is these companies, their stock value is based on how much information that they can collect from you, package it, monetize it, and sell it to advertisers, plus other third parties that include data brokers. So we'll go into a little bit more detail. So internet centralization is simply this. Google, Apple, and Microsoft control access to internet trade and commerce via monopolizing the OS market, plus controlling the global distribution of apps and social media, and now AI. So when you look at it, today, access to the internet must go through Google, Apple, and Microsoft first. A lot of people think that when they trade their information for the use of a social media account like Facebook developed by Meta or TikTok developed by ByteDance from China, they think that that's when their information is being collected, and those are the companies that are selling them to advertisers. That's not how it works. You're first an operating system customer and or end user, meaning that when you buy a smartphone, a tablet PC, a connected product, or a PC supported by the Android OS, Apple iOS, or Microsoft Windows OS, those companies sell you first, which is Alphabet, the parent company of Google, Apple, and Microsoft. They're the ones who sell access to you to Meta, Amazon, ByteDance, and other app developers that want to develop an intrusive app or an addictive social media platform centered on exploiting the end user for profits, meaning that they want to collect your information, package it, market it, and distribute it. So you're first sold to the market by Google, Apple, and Microsoft, who control the operating system market. You only have 3 operating systems to choose from, and that's the Android OS, Apple iOS, or Microsoft Windows. So that's where everything gets centralized. Now, I want to touch base on this because some technical people will say, well, it's not centralized in that if I have a URL and I want to just manually type in a URL to go to a website, you can do that. But most people don't do that. 95% of the people today access their favorite websites by touching an app on their phone. They no longer are typing in the URL to access a website. And this is how centralization has happened. Centralization has led to the global information trafficking industry and or corporate surveillance. Google, Apple, and Microsoft, again, they control access to the internet through their monopolization of the operating system market and the global distribution of apps. So the way you need to look at it this way is that for these companies to gain access, for any company to gain access to you for advertising purposes, they first must cut a deal with Google, Apple, and Microsoft. So they broker 2 types of application deals. One deal costs a developer billions of dollars, and that's to be the coveted pre-installed app on the device. This is how we see how these monopolies have been built. If you have billions of dollars, you can pay them to be a pre-installed app. This has happened with Facebook. This is why Facebook grew so exponentially, not necessarily by organically, but because the Facebook app, Meta paid Google, Apple, and Microsoft billions of dollars to have that app pre-installed into billions of smartphones, tablet PCs, and connected products. This gives Meta a huge advantage over any other social media platform developer out there, because if somebody develops a social media platform, these companies will say, well, it's a fair market, you can develop one and compete. That's not necessarily true, because if you don't have billions of dollars to pay these operating system companies to be pre-installed into billions of devices, you're going to be stuck in the App Store, Google Play, Apple App Store, and Microsoft Windows App Store with millions of other apps, and you're going to get lost in the static. And this is how these companies have been able to monopolize access to internet trade and commerce. It's the same thing. TikTok, when it first came on the market, it wasn't widely adopted until ByteDance started cutting these pre-installed app deals. And then you started to see, like with Windows 11, you get the TikTok app pre-installed into any device supported by Microsoft Windows 11. This is how the game is played. Amazon, again, there may be other competitors to Amazon, but unless you have billions of dollars to pay these operating system companies, your app is going to be stuck in the App Store, and people have to find you that way. And there have been some successful apps that have been launched in the App Store, but nothing compared to the apps that are pre-installed into the devices that are supported by the Android OS, Apple iOS, or Microsoft Windows 8, 10, or 11 OS. So again, this has led to the global information trafficking industry. Alphabet, Google's parent company, Apple, Microsoft, they're in the $1 trillion global information trafficking business. This means that they intentionally develop highly addictive and intrusive apps and social media platforms for the sole purpose of exploiting the end user for profits by way of predatory surveillance and data mining business practices. This means that they do not view their end users as paying customers, even though you paid for a smartphone or a computer or a tablet PC or a connected car and so forth. They don't view you as a paying customer. They view you as a product that they can package and market and exploit for profits, even at the expense of your privacy, security, and safety. And we'll talk a little bit about why your safety's in jeopardy here when we talk about addictive social media platforms and so forth. So again, when you look at this business model, it's very intrusive, and and it exploits the end user. Now, that used to not be the case when this business model first came to light in the 1990s when Google first was launched. They launched a web browser that they gave to you for free. Before, you generally would have to pay for software, like the Windows operating system that came with Explorer. You had to pay for that. Google the founders of Alphabet said, hey, what if we gave something away in return? The end user has to click on I agree, the terms of use to use our web browser, and then we'll collect information on what they're searching for, and we'll sell that to advertisers. This proliferated to operating systems that support smartphones and tablet PCs. So now they were able to collect much more information. Before, Meta was founded that way when Facebook was first founded by Mark Zuckerberg and Sean Parker. They did the same thing. If we give away a free social media account, we can collect information on the end user when they're online and on the platform. And that's pretty much when the surveillance and data mining would start and stop in the old days. When you got online, they were able to surveil you while you were online and data mine you, collect that, and sell it to advertisers. I didn't have too much of a problem with that because you were getting something in return. You were getting a free product in return. But when it proliferated to smartphone operating systems, now it's proliferating to products and services that cost us money. So now you're paying them money for this piece of hardware that supports their operating system and intrusive apps are supporting, and they're collecting your business information to exploit for profits off of products and services that you're having to pay money for. So again, if you want to look at the three companies that were responsible for the loss of privacy, security, and safety associated with connected products, PCs, smartphones, and so forth, it was Google, Apple, and Microsoft who realized the value of their operating systems and the value of cutting deals with original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs, to have their operating systems support those products and services. Then they knew they could surveil and data mine you, not when you're online using their apps or their platforms, but they can surveil and data mine you 24/7, 365 days a year. So when I first discovered all this, I'll give you a little bit of background about an app and platform that we developed for the telecommunications industry because it's highly relevant. I was one of the founders of Houdini Soft, and the company I worked for, Carnegie Technologies, had developed it. And Houdini Soft was at one point, we were the world's largest legal hacking firm. So I helped start one of the world's largest legal hackers, or a black hat hacker, so to speak, and so forth. And we developed the app and platform to unlock and re-provision phones for the telecommunication carriers. Initially, Cricket adopted us, Verizon, Metro PCS, and so forth. They adopted our app and platform to use for reverse logistics. Well, what is unlocking and re-provisioning? Well, the street term for that is jailbreaking and flashing at an enterprise level. We did not sell our service to the end user or the commercial or market it commercially. We built enterprise apps and platforms that were integrated into the carrier's provisioning platform, like their Amdocs system. So if you ever walked into a Metro PCS store and you saw a sign that said Metro Flash, that was Houdini Soft. Cricket Flash, unlock it at Pocket. We white labeled it, and the carriers could market it under their own brand. And we developed that app and platform. And that's when through the Houdini Soft Labs, I was able to understand the vulnerabilities within the Android OS, Apple iOS, and Microsoft Windows operating system. A lot of you are a little bit younger now, but you may not have realized that at one time, Microsoft had an operating system for mobile devices as well. And we were able to look at these operating systems in our labs. We were able to get SDKs because we were working for the carriers. So we were able to go into these devices in areas that even a normal hacker wouldn't know where to or how to get into, because we were getting into the devices at the Qualcomm chipset level. And I don't want to get too techno geeky for you, but we were able to look at the bin files. And this is when I started to understand how much surveillance and data mining that was happening. So consequently, in 2013, the industry started to go to a unified protocol, LTE. So before LTE, there was CDMA, GSM, TDMA. There were many different protocols. Once LTE hit, that protocol didn't require an unlocking mechanism that was automated. You could unlock it with a code. So there was no more need for Houdini Soft. And at that point, I got into security. I became a security advisor, and I started working for defense contractors such as Space Data out of Arizona. And this is highly relevant to the admissions I'm about to read to you. Space Data builds high-altitude communication platforms for the defense industry that were used in the theater of war or combat in Iraq, Afghanistan, and so forth. I wanted to understand if the device, at that time I went from a secure BlackBerry device to a Samsung Galaxy Note, and I wanted to see if the device was secure enough to use in the defense industry. And long story short is the CEO of the company, Jerry Knobloch, asked me to reverse engineer the phone to see if the phone was secure and private, and I found out that it wasn't. When I was done with my analysis on the phone, and I'm going to actually show you some screenshots of code in a minute from that analysis, plus some newer information that I've gotten. But once I was done with my analysis of the apps, the operating system that supported the phone and the pre-installed apps, these are the apps that you can't uninstall in many cases, or control, or even turn off in some cases. You can't disable them, you can't uninstall them. So if they're operating, you're forced to use them on the phone. And if there's surveillance technology involved with that app, then you're being forced to be surveilled and data mined by the company who created that app. So when I was done with my analysis, I had identified over 18 multinational companies that were responsible for the development of the pre-installed apps that I couldn't control or uninstall, including a company from China called Baidu. I then submitted my findings to T-Mobile, where I bought the Samsung Galaxy Note, Samsung, and Google to see if my findings were accurate, and they were. Consequently, the Department of Homeland Security wanted me to submit my smartphone report to DHS Science and Technology for the 2017 study on mobile device security, as well as NSA had reached out to me for the same smartphone report. And then later I became an advisor to lawmakers for congressional hearings involving big tech, dating back to the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal involving Mark Zuckerberg. So I started sharing this information once I proved it out, and I allowed the device manufacturer, the operating system developer, and the app developers to analyze my report. None of them came back and said my findings were false. I was able to leverage 2 admissions from T-Mobile and Verizon based on my report. I'll only read one of them for you because I want to save enough time for questions after this. T-Mobile had this to say: "We too remember a time before smartphones when it was reasonable to conclude that when you activated service with T-Mobile, that only T-Mobile would have access to your personal information. However, with the Samsung Galaxy Note, the iPhone, and many other devices, there are indeed a variety of parties that may collect and use the information." And that, again, what they are admitting to is that this admission is based on the pre-installed apps, not the third-party apps that you download. A lot of security experts will say, well, what about mobile device management platforms for security? Can they protect you? Yes, they can protect your information from the third-party apps that you download from the App Store yourself, but they're not going to protect you from the apps that were pre-installed into the device. And there's a reason for that, is because those companies pay billions of dollars to Google, Apple, and Microsoft. They don't want their ability to surveil or data mine you to be disrupted because they pay big money to gain access to you. Again, when you look at apps and platforms, I'm going to get a little bit in the weeds and how these are developed. You first must look at the fact that no matter what app it is, it could be an entertainment app, it can be an app of necessity, and so forth. When those apps are developed, that's not what's being developed first. The capabilities for surveillance and data mining are being developed first. So again, it's whether it's a TikTok app, it's a surveillance and data mining app. Why? Because ByteDance is not in the software business. They're in the information trafficking business, and they develop surveillance and data mining technology, and they utilize social media as the vehicle to surveil and data mine the end user. That's why they're giving you a social media account for free. Same with Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. They're all developed the same way. Even apps of necessity. Microsoft ChatGPT. Again, open source, who developed it initially said they weren't going to sell out to big tech and they wanted to keep it private and secure, but they probably realized that they were never going to get it launched unless it was pre-installed. So they ended up cutting a deal with Microsoft. Plus, Microsoft saw that it was a threat to Bing or any other web browser. So Microsoft simply bought them the same way that Meta bought Instagram. When Instagram became a threat to Facebook's monopoly, they just simply bought their competition. This is part of antitrust, but this is how the industry is working. So, Microsoft, these companies don't want to lose control of AI's the new future. They want to monopolize that. So they're going to buy up any AI company that has a new innovation that could be a threat to their monopoly. They're simply going to buy the company to maintain control and distribution of AI. You see this with gaming platforms like PlayStation and Xbox, which is also owned by Microsoft. So now they backed all of these apps and platforms with a targeted advertising business model rooted in surveillance capitalism. So a lot of people, if you challenge them and they say, well, this is what you're accepting, have you read your terms of use? They are going to literally, thousands of people have tried to challenge us in court and lawsuits. And as it turns out, the out for them is your terms of use. So when you click on I agree, what you're agreeing to is a predatory contract. That's a contract of adhesion, meaning it's a one-way contract, take it or leave it. Now, I believe this is forced participation because you can't buy any smartphone, tablet, PC, or connected product on the market today that's supported by a private and secure operating system and or apps unless it's decentralized. But you're not going to find a mainstream operating system out there. So you have no choice, because whether you're on the Android OS, Apple iOS, or Microsoft Windows OS, all of the apps and social media platforms are backed by this targeted advertising business model, which means that you have to click on I agree to accept that. If you don't click on it, another form of forced participation, if you don't click on it, you can't use the product or service that you paid for. So even though you paid $500 for your smartphone or $1,500 for your smartphone, if you don't click on this contract of adhesion, you can't use the product that you're paying for. Same with a smart TV, a connected vehicle, or any other connected product that's supported by these three operating systems. So sorry, my throat's getting a little dry here. So I'm going to show you what you're accepting. A lot of people go, well, they never read them. I have corporate attorneys are accepting these and they don't understand what they're accepting. Well, basically, aside from a contract of adhesion, you're accepting a cyber enslavement agreement, meaning that you are becoming an uncompensated information producer, working for Google, Apple, Microsoft, plus these app developers 24/7, 365 days a year, producing the most valuable commodity on the planet, the new oil, personal and business information that's packaged, marketed, monetized, and sold for profits to numerous companies out there. So you have to understand what first of all, it becomes hard to read these terms of use because they're written in a torturous manner. So when you click on I agree, what you're accepting that's very transparent to you is online terms and conditions. You can find those online. Privacy policies are published online. End user licensing agreements for the OS and apps are published online. What's hidden from you is the most important legalese. The legalese that tells you how much surveillance and data mining they can conduct on you. And those are called the legalese that's associated with is application permission statements, which are hidden in the device. They're not published online. Some app permissions, the title of the app permission is published online, but not the legalese that the app permission that supports the app permission. That's hidden within your device in the application manager. Also, you'll be surprised to know that there are product warnings that are hidden in the device. Warnings to censor your communications, warnings about malicious apps, literally warnings about your privacy and security are hidden in the device. And I think this is a form of deceptive trade practices. I will show you screenshots of this language so that you know what I'm talking about is true. These are the screenshots that I lifted off of the devices that I've analyzed over the years. I have over 10 years of research in this presentation. And I believe that hiding product warnings from consumers is an issue that needs to be addressed because of the fact this would be no different if a cigarette manufacturer were to hide the product warnings on the inside of the packaging. So after you consume the product, you realize you gave yourself cancer. Some of these product warnings are a little shocking. And then I'm going to also cover in-device inter-application permission command strings, which is a command string that enables 2 or more companies to surveil and data mine you off of a single app. So let's say you were able to delete the Facebook app and you didn't want it on your phone and you got rid of it, but Meta then can pay Google more money, and Google will just say, well, we'll attach you to one of our apps and you can collect the same information off of the end user, even though you may not have a Facebook account. So pending the number of companies that develop the apps that are pre-installed, there could the total pages of legalese that you're accepting exceeded, at least in the phones that I was able to analyze. The first phone that I analyzed, the Samsung Galaxy Note, the legalese added up to over 3,000 pages of complicated legalese written in a torturous manner, meaning that it was torturous to read, complicated. The fact that they split the agreement into online and in-device agreements makes it impossible to read. And I believe this is also a violation of existing consumer protection laws that have nothing to do with Section 230 that protects these social media platforms. That's strictly protection from anything that's published on the platform. That 230 does not protect them from existing consumer protection laws because they're a consumer manufacturing or development company, meaning that they manufacture or develop consumer products. And they're still beholden to existing consumer protection laws. And I'll go into a reason why the FTC and state AGs are not enforcing these laws when it comes to big tech. We'll cover that in a little bit. So also, one other thing that you have to understand about the surveillance and data mining is the fact that it's simultaneously done. So depending on how many companies are responsible for the pre-installed apps and the number of companies that are responsible for the apps that you download onto your devices, there could be as many as 50 or more multinational companies, including companies from Russia and China, that are conducting audio, video, physical surveillance on you, as well as data mining over 5,000 data points. And I'm going to go into detail about those data points that they're collecting from you. And this is done 24/7, 365 days a year, indiscriminately, meaning that if you use your device professionally, they're not just collecting your personal information, they're collecting information associated with your business. And again, that's a threat. That's a cybersecurity threat to your business information. So the first thing I want to go over to you, and I call these operating systems leaky operating systems because they can't be privatized or secured, not according to me, but the admissions made by Verizon and T-Mobile and other people have looked at the my smartphone reports. So again, these are leaky operating systems. They're purposely developed that way. And what makes them leaky is, in the old days, up until Windows 7, operating systems used to be, and I don't want to get too technically geeky on you here, operating systems used to be developed on a closed application programmable interface or a closed API architecture for security, meaning that up until Windows 7, if you bought a PC supported by Windows, you were able to control the bloatware that was pre-installed onto the computer and actually delete it all. So if it came with all these software, and we didn't call them apps back then, it was just software that was on the device, and it was the same business model. People paid them, Microsoft, hundreds of millions of dollars to have their bloatware pre-installed onto the Windows 7 operating system. However, Windows enabled the end user to have full control over that and simply delete it. And so forth, so you could delete it. That's not the case anymore. These deals are cut because these operating systems are developed on an open API architecture for integration, meaning that the apps now are like jigsaw puzzles that can connect to each other. And the reason they do that, and I'm keeping this simple, I'm not going to get into technical terms, but they connect with each other like a jigsaw puzzle to trade information between the apps. And then that information is then collected by the app and then backhauled to the mothership or a server farm that's owned by Google, Apple, or Microsoft, or the app developer or social media developer like Meta. And oh, by the way, you pay for that. Not only are they collecting your personal and business information, the most valuable information on the planet, the new oil, but you pay for the transportation of that data back to their server farms. It's in your terms of use, which is a little shocking to me, because now they're collecting the product from you, they're exploiting it for profits, and you're paying for it through your data plan. So this is why, let's say you run over on your data plan, you start getting throttled on your data. Well, probably 20 to 30% of that data that you're using is not you using your device to search things on the internet, play a game, buy something, and so forth. That's 30% of the data that all of those apps are collecting on you and backhauling on it, and you're having to pay that through your cellular phone bill. So again, this is why I call people ask me, why do you call it predatory? Well, that's a predatory agreement when you're being exploited like that. So I call intrusive apps legal malware, because an intrusive app is simply developed the way a hacker would develop that app. So I call it legal malware, because a single intrusive app enables the developer to conduct audio, video, and physical surveillance on the end user while enabling the developer to collect over 5,000 highly confidential data points associated with the end user's personal, business, medical, legal, and employment information. So again, if you go back to the DHS study on mobile device security by DHS S&T, they classified these apps as malicious apps, meaning they weren't classifying an app developed by a hacker as malicious. They were classifying the apps developed by these app developers as malicious. The app can attach itself to the sensors and hardware on your device, the camera and microphone. That's where they can do audio and video surveillance on you. But what is physical surveillance? This is when the app attaches itself to your accelerometer. So that enables the developer to know when you're sitting, walking, or in transportation, on a bike, in a car, and so forth. As a matter of fact, if you turn off your location services and you think you're stopping them from tracking you, they laugh about that. No, you're not. They can track you through Wi-Fi access points. They can track you through what's called near-field communications. These NFC tags are associated with Google Pay, Apple Pay, smart street lights, and so forth. So when your device, if you're in a restaurant and they have Google Pay or Apple Pay in there, and your phone pings that register, whether you buy something or not, Google and Apple will know you're exactly in that restaurant. So they'll know where you're at, and they can track you multiple ways. What we found out through COVID is they can even track you through Bluetooth. Again, these are the generic application permissions that you're agreeing to. And I know that this is hard to see on the screen, but this is the amount of information that these companies are going to collect from you. They're going to collect your account information, your calendar, call history, contacts, emails, email attachments, facial recognition, fingerprint, biometric data, your voice print. They're collecting your voice print, and so forth. They collect all of this information. This is the matrix that I did for the Department of Homeland Security that explains how much information that they're collecting from you. It's unbelievable. I'm not going to go through the WhatsApp example. I want to show you the application permissions because I want to leave a little bit of time for questions here. Again, some of the legalese is contradictive. When you go online, Google will tell you that you're not identified when they sell your information to publishers, advertisers, developers, brokers, and so forth. However, the application legalese in the device clearly states that Google or any other company can identify you, allows the app to read your personal profile information stored on your device, such as your name and contact information. This means that the apps can identify you and may send your information to others. Again, people ask me all the time, can they really record what I'm doing without my consent? Yes. Allows the app to record audio with the microphone. This permission allows the app to record audio at any time without your confirmation. Same with the camera. Your messages, whether they're SMS messages or instant messages, they collect all of those as well, including email attachments. Other app warnings. Here's one about your calendar information where they say they can collect that from you plus your fellow coworkers, meaning they're acknowledging that they're collecting from information from your business. Lock screen, no matter what lock you put in there, they can unlock it, whether it's a personal lock or an encrypted lock. Again, here's the one about email access to your email attachments. That could be a medical report from your doctor. And here's one that describes the ability for the apps to reach beyond the host device and collect information like from your social media feeds. Allows the app to access and sync social updates from you and your friends. Be careful when sharing information. This allows the app to read communications between you and your friends on social networks. Here's a warning to censor your communications because they're telling you they're watching you, yet that warning is hidden in the device and not published online. Other warnings warn you about third parties potentially collecting your information. Aside from that, the platforms are intentionally developed to be addictive, not according to me, but the developers themselves. Tristan Harris, a former product developer for Google, admitted this. If you've seen the movie The Social Dilemma, he admits that during that. Sean Parker, the founder of Facebook, also admits this. And what they're using is brain hijacking technology. This is a real term. They're using brain hijacking technology associated with manipulative advertising technology to addict you to your device so that they can keep you on the device for so that they can keep exploiting you by selling your information to advertisers. Sean Parker had this to say: it's a social validation feedback loop, the kind of thing like a hacker like myself would come up with because you're exploiting the vulnerability in human psychology. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brains, the inventors, the creators. It's me, it's Mark Zuckerberg, Kevin Systrom. It's all of these people understood this consciously, and we did it anyways. He admitted that during an Axios interview and also acknowledging the harm. God only knows what it's doing to our children's brain. Well, I say God only knows what it's doing to the end user's brain, whether you're an adult, teen, or child. Since 2011, there's been double-digit rise in harm, anxiety, depression, self-harm, violence, and suicide. This was also submitted to Congress by Frances Haugen, the Facebook, Instagram whistleblower, and I was an advisor for that congressional hearing. And yet Congress, even with an internal meta document that stated that there was a 13% harm rate with Facebook and Instagram, that was ignored by Congress because it's been over 2 years since she testified before Congress and turned that document in, and yet there's been no action taken. There are two movies I'd like you to go see and look up on Netflix. One is The Social Dilemma. That explains how app and social media platforms are developed with addictive technology and divisive algorithms to keep you divided. And that's another form of brain hijacking to keep you glued to the platform. They want you divided. And they use divisive algorithms to do that. And the great hack is exactly what Facebook Cambridge Analytica is, which is a little bit more horrifying, is that they're using this addictive technology not for consumerism, but politics. So it gets a little scary. So a lot of people ask me, and I'll close with this. A lot of people ask me, how's this legal? Well, it's legal because of the tech, US tech and China lobby. They're so powerful that and so persuasive that they are actually controlling what we're they're actually influencing our lawmakers when it comes to all this harm. There's been over 30 congressional hearings involving nefarious, intrusive, predatory, and harmful business practices employed by tech giants, which most recently the one that included or involved Shou Chu, the CEO of ByteDance. He was before Congress about TikTok and the harm TikTok is causing the end users. The reason nothing's getting done because these congressional hearings are always end in meaningless resolve and phony apologies, and then it's back to business as usual. Why? Because of K Street law firms in Washington, D.C. that the tech companies, including foreign companies, can hire to do the lobbying on their part. Here's what Eric Schmidt, if you don't know who Eric Schmidt is, he was the former chairman of Alphabet and Google, and this is what he had to say at an Atlantic conference in New York. The average American doesn't realize how much of the laws are written by lobbyists to protect incumbent, meaning politicians. It's shocking how the system actually works. Washington is an incumbent protection machine where the lobbyists write the laws. So if you looked at the omnibus bill or any other law written by Congress and you wonder, and it's 4,000 pages, you wonder who's writing that. Your representatives aren't writing those laws. It's the K Street law firms hired by the companies who those laws affect in the industry that are actually putting the pen to paper to write those laws in favorable of those companies. So if you do get a privacy law, it may address some surveillance and data mining business practices, but it's not going to address the business practices that mean the most, which are generating the money. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the presentation short here and talk a little bit about solutions and open it up to questions. Solutions. The solutions today are what's you're hearing decentralization, and this is decentralized technology. There's some really fantastic companies out there that are working in this area, and they're developing decentralized operating systems that are based in Linux and secure apps. And they basically work like the old operating systems on a closed API architecture. There's no surveillance or data mining business practices associated with this. So you're going to see the term decentralized. People like Elon Musk are putting billions of dollars into this. He believes that the market needs to be disrupted and that privacy and security need to be returned to consumers. So I'm going to go ahead and exit the presentation there. So does anybody have any questions? I can't hear you. Your mic.
Thank you for the information. I'm looking at the platform to see if any questions come up.
Also, I want to let the attendees know that there's going to be some links. I did record these sessions so that you can do a deeper dive, and I'm providing more information within those recorded. Those should be available to you. Plus, you can have access to this deck. One of the areas I didn't cover today was tech-based hybrid warfare real quickly. People ask, why is TikTok a threat? Well, because of all of the information that app can collect, and it's being housed by a company that's beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. No matter what Shou Chu says, that's the case. Not according to me, but Bloomberg. If you look at the Bloomberg report, Bloomberg reported that these tech companies that come out of China are forced by the Chinese government to have a CCP member on their board of directors. And so you have to trust what they're telling you. But when you look at how they package their terms of use and the deceptive trade practices associated with that, you have to ask yourself, can you trust Google, Apple, or Microsoft, much less a company from China or any other company around the world? I don't want to pick on China. There could be an app developer out of South America or Europe or Germany or anywhere else. Can you trust these people? And so forth. Okay, I see a question. Let me pop up the chat. You are able to continue for 5 or 8 more minutes. If you have student questions, great. Please feel free to ask. Okay. All right. Yeah, one of the things I want to say is awareness is everything. People don't understand this. I come out of the app and platform industry. I still work in the industry today, but I'm working with decentralized technology rather than, I basically gave my career up at, with companies like Carnegie. We were developing fintech platforms and everything. And I refuse to work for any company that is developing apps and platforms that have a surveillance capitalism business model associated with them. I'm probably costing myself a great deal of money. I have a lot of experience, but I'm, I just can't find myself working in that industry anymore, because it's not just the fact that they're collecting this information, it's how they're doing it with addictive technology, and the fact that the FTC, state AGs, and lawmakers are virtually doing nothing about it because they've been bought off. So it's, awareness is everything. So share this information with other people. They need to understand how these things work. They may be fun. The apps agree. Social media is a great thing. It's a lot of fun. Buying something online is a necessity today. But realize that while you're using these products, you're being, your attention is being drawn to the entertainment value or the retail value you're getting out of that app. But while you're distracted by that, they're just taking all of your personal information, they're basically robbing the bank and exploiting you over it.
So I don't see any additional questions at this time, but we still have 3 participants. You do have a message from one of the participants?
All right.
So thank you to all our sponsors for the event today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask now. We'll probably stay on for another minute or 2.
Also, we have I'm a freelance tech journalist, and I've written a lot of articles, and I'm also a subject matter expert. I've been interviewed from everyone from CBS to other shows on different topics. But I also written numerous articles over the last 6 years. I originally went to college to become a journalist, so now I've been semi-retired for the last 10 years, and I work as a consultant, and I went back to journalism, and now I'm writing articles about these topics, mainly for industry trade publications like Mission Critical Communications Magazine and the Wireless Messaging News and so forth. But I've written a lot of articles out there. If you Google Rex M. Lee, you might find some of my author pages, and I've written a lot of these articles that are out there as well as I'm working online as a subject matter expert. But we have a show called Cyber Talk TV that's published through Pod TV on Roku and Amazon Fire. So if you look at Pod TV, you can download the Roku app for Cyber Talk, and you can see a lot of these. A lot of the topics I covered today are up there in interview format and so forth.
Okay, well, I think we're wrapped up on time today. Thank you so much for your presentation, Rex. Very informative, and the students are looking forward to looking at the additional information you're going to share. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend.
Bye.